All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wine, Women, and Words. I'm Michelle, and with me, of course, is Diana.
Hello.
And this evening, we are joined by author Amy Blumenfeld. Thank you so much for joining us, Amy. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, some of you may have missed Diana last week. Well, she was here briefly, and then she left abruptly. And her computer froze in very entertaining facial expressions, which I did document and send to her the next day. But she bought a brand new laptop, so that shouldn't be happening anymore.
No, knock on wood, I'm not going to have any issues. So tonight is the first test run with the new computer.
Okay, guys, what is that? Did you see that? It was like, it was very strange. So anyway, we are Wine, Women, and Words. So let's kick off with what is everyone drinking tonight?
Well, Amy, are you drinking anything?
Water. I'm not a drinker.
Well, and it's 11 o'clock at night, so I'm an hour behind you. I'm in Chicago, so
okay.
Thursdays are like the one day a week that I for sure stay up past 9. Otherwise, there's a good chance that I fall asleep on the couch trying to watch Netflix. So I feel you. Diana, what are you drinking?
I am still working on my blackberry wine that I got on my trip to Oregon from Nihalem Bay.
Oh, that's right. You were telling us about that last week.
Yes, the wine that tastes like grape juice.
It's a dangerous wine.
It is. It is.
I'm having a red blend that I don't know how it showed up at my house, but it did, and it's good. So I don't ask questions. I think I got Lannon's birthday was on Monday. My littlest one just turned 3. So I think I bought myself a bottle of wine to commiserate with the fact that he now says, "Mommy, that's yucky," when I give him kisses.
Oh,
and it's
so
the saddest thing in the world. But I never actually opened the bottle of wine until now. So better late than never, I guess. But so let's dive in. But guys, you all know we talk about it every week. But do check out our link. You can go to trywink.com/www.podcast. Want to make sure there wasn't any extra W's in there.
I didn't think that through when I talked to them about what our code was going to be.
All right. I didn't think that through when I thought of the name. It was
yeah, we thought it was all cute and clever. Only ourselves.
But go to trywink.com/www.podcast and take their awesome little quiz that'll help build a taste profile for you, and you'll get $22 off your first box of wine. And then you can tell Diana and I what you get, Diana and me what you get, and which ones we should check out next, because we love checking boxes off of the wines that we want to try. But anyway, so getting to the reason why we're here tonight. Now, this is your debut novel, which is The Cast. And congratulations on your first book. That must be so exciting for you.
Thank you. And it's been a labor of love and a work in progress for some time. But yeah, it's exciting to have it out for sure.
And so this, like I said, this is your debut novel, but you've been writing for a while. You work as a journalist, right?
Yes. I started out I got a master's in journalism. And after I graduated, I worked for American Health Magazine and for a couple of years, and then George Magazine. And when we, shortly before we folded with George, I was working on a story about what it's like to grow up in the White House. And I interviewed a bunch of children of former US presidents. And of course, my luck, we folded with that issue. But the editor-in-chief of George at the time set up a meeting with People magazine. and people asked me to continue writing it for them. And then at the time, this was years ago, this was in like 2000, when George Bush was coming into office, and he had his twin daughters, Barbara and Jenna, and they got into just a little bit of mischief, and people slapped a picture of them on the cover and did this news piece about them, and then linked it to this feature that I had been working on for months about growing up in the White House. And so it ended up a cover in People. And then from there, I was able to start freelancing for other publications like Oprah and Self and some other places. And then in the back of my head, I always had this book that was just sort of sitting in me. And so, like, I don't know, about 4 years ago, I started working on it as a novel. And here it is.
So for those who aren't familiar with the book, can you tell us what it's about?
Sure. It's we're sort of pitching it as The Fault in Our Stars meets The Big Chill. It's about a group of childhood friends who grew up in Queens, New York, and they rally around each other when one of their friends gets sick with cancer in 9th grade, and they realize that they can't cure her with medicine. So they try to do the next best thing, which is, cure her with laughter. So they create a Saturday Night Live style videotape to cheer her up, and she makes it through, she recovers, and 25 years later, they reunite over the course of a summer weekend. And of course, nothing goes as planned, and all of their lives are sort of at a crossroads.
And I found another interview that you did about the book, and in the interview mentioned that the story is actually based on some personal experiences that you went through. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. There were 3 sources of inspiration for this book. The first was my graduate school master's project. In grad school, at the journalism school, they tell you need to write this master's project, which is essentially like a long magazine article. And in the beginning of the year, they say you need to choose a topic that's going to keep your interest going throughout the course of the year. So, of course, I had no idea what I wanted to write about, and it's the day before the deadline, and I still have no idea what I want to write about. And it just turned out that day before the deadline was my annual checkup at Sloan Kettering, which here in New York is a cancer hospital. I had cancer as a child, and I went back for my annual checkup, and I'm sitting there in the waiting room, and I have my little reporter's notebook, and I'm jotting down different ideas, and nothing is sticking. And the woman sitting to my right taps my shoulder, and she was there with her teenage daughter. And I was about 22 at this time. And she says, "Oh, are you waiting for somebody?" She's trying to make conversation. And I said, "No, actually, I'm the patient." And I pulled up my sleeve and I showed her the ID tag on my wrist. And I said, I'm just waiting for my name to be called. And so she started asking me a bunch of questions. And she was kind of blown away, not by me, not by Amy, but by what I represented, which was hope and a future for her child. And so after my appointment, I went back and I sort of just hung out with them and spoke with them and answered whatever questions they had. And I then knew that I had the topic for my master's project. And so I ended up writing about adult survivors of childhood cancer and sort of this ripple effect of what happens after treatment ends. On not just the patient, but on the loved ones and the family and on the friends, and the impact just psychologically and physically on everybody. And so at graduation, my professor said, you really should consider turning this into a book. And I never had any thoughts of writing a book, any form of a book. And it just sort of planted a seed in my head. And over the years, I would sock away a chapter. I was interviewing people. So I spent the remainder of that year working on this and interviewing psychologists and social workers and doctors and patients and their loved ones and survivors. And it was really fascinating to see the long-term effects of this. And I realized the more I socked away these chapters that it was turning into a cancer book. And I didn't want to write a cancer book. I didn't want to read a cancer book. That was not the MO. And so when I turned 40, my friends and I were just sort of having these, like milestone moment type of conversations about, parenting and relationships and marriage and career and where we hope to be in our lives in a few years and what we hope to accomplish. And I was like, these are really, really fascinating conversations. And what if I create characters that are sort of relatable like my friends and dealing with similar interesting topics like we're discussing, but then weave in these fascinating issues that I've been researching from my master's project about the long-term survivorship effects. And that's sort of how this came to be. So yes, it is inspired partially from my own experience with childhood cancer, but it's also inspired by all of the interviews and the people that I've spoken with about their own experiences. But it's not, it's not a heavy cancer book. It's dealing with a whole bunch of typical other things like marriage. And there's a character who has a passionless marriage, and what she wanted at 22 is not necessarily what she wants at 40. And does she stay in this passionless marriage for the sake of her children, or does she just sort of leave and jump ship and pursue these new interests that she has? There's another couple that's dealing with a medical crisis, and there's just no right or wrong answer for this. And what do you do when there's love and there's respect, but you fundamentally disagree about how to approach something that's really important, particularly with a spouse? And then there's another couple in the book that's dealing with a religious issue. And so they decided when they were young that they wanted to be modern Orthodox Jews, and they lived for 20 something years this way. And now on the cusp of 40, they're, the woman is finally pregnant. They were dealing with infertility for a long time, and now she's about to become a mother, and she's saying, wait a minute, I like this lifestyle that we've had, but I may want to go back to being a little bit less religious. And I think that's the way I want to parent my child. And the husband is like, wait a minute, what's wrong with what we've been doing all, the last 20 years? I thought this was the plan. So again, there's no right or wrong in these situations. So I was really fascinated by these gray areas that so many of us deal with. And how do you move forward? Does one person just give in and then, the other, live with resentment for years? Or how do you agree to disagree? So those were some of the things that I was really fascinated in exploring in this book.
With doing the different perspectives, it's always the type of book that I want to write too, is going through the multiple perspectives. And I want to know what your thoughts were on getting into each character's head. Because you have to, when you're going from the different perspectives, you got to take it from a different angle.
Right.
What are your thoughts on processing and doing that?
It was actually really fun. So there were two reasons why I wanted to do it from multiple vantage points. One of them was because I wanted to show that ripple effect of the impact that being that traumatic childhood experience can have on people in different ways over the course of time. So, for instance, one of the characters becomes very obsessive compulsive. She couldn't control what happened with her friend when they were kids. So later in life, she became incredibly controlling. One character runs towards religion. Another character in the book runs away from religion. One becomes very determined to have a family at a young age because she feels like this is what life is about. It's about having a family. Another one has an idea in her head for a business and wants to grab the brass ring and say, life is short and I want to go for my dream. So I wanted to take, those different vantage points and sort of bring them, into the spotlight. The other reason I wanted to do it is because I wanted to show those gray areas, those not black and white issues. And I felt the best way to explore that was through these different vantage points. And the way I did that was I grew up in a family of lawyers. And so I'm very used to thinking of like devil's advocate. And so I essentially took like a yellow legal pad and I drew a line down the middle, and I had basically the prosecution and the defense. So if you take an issue like the medical crisis or the religion or this woman who's in this passionless marriage, like the reasons for staying in the passionless marriage, a reason for leaving, the reason for staying the course with the religion, the reason for, not staying the course, pro the medical procedure, anti the medical procedure. So I went down, and by doing that, their positions sort of like informed the characters, and the characters grew out of those positions. So I would say to myself, why would they take that position? Why would they say that type of thing? What is it about their background that would make them think that way, and their past experiences that would inform that position? So it sort of all came together in that way.
Very cool.
You go.
Sorry.
We need like paddles or something to hold up when we have a question.
We do. We should probably just hold up our wine glasses so that we know. I think that might work out the best. But I love the research that you did on this. That really perked my ears with how much research you did, talking to the social workers and to doctors and psychologists. Is this something that is being studied in the psychological realm, or is this something that's just being overlooked?
No, but I think, no, it's definitely being studied. They have long-term survivorship programs, which is something they never had years ago because kids were not living that long. And so, you know, for me, I feel very fortunate to sort of be on the cutting edge of that, you know, to be the first generation. I know there are people who are older than I am who have survived, but it's not a whole generation of people. And the science has advanced, you know, people are living longer lives. And so now the question becomes no longer just saving these lives, but ensuring that there's quality to the lives these children fought so hard to keep. And so, you know, it's not enough to think about, you know, when treatment ends. It's what do you do after? So you have to ensure that there's fertility, you know, options for them. There's a whole host of things, and also radiation is, you know, can have a long-term impact and trigger other health issues later on. And then there's a psychological impact. So this is a whole field of study.
Okay, Michelle, now you can move on to your question.
Well, two things. I thought of what you were saying about, you know, what happens after you survive. It reminded me of a TV show that ran very briefly, but it was basically about, I think it only lasted for one season, but it was basically about this young woman. She was maybe not our age anymore, gosh, maybe like 22 or 21, 22. And she had had cancer for, you know, for years, and no one, the doctors didn't expect her to survive, and her family didn't expect her to survive, but she beat it and she was fine. And the whole story was how she learned to cope with the fact that she wasn't dying anymore. And her family, there was, you know, just like you said, that ripple effect of, what do I do now? You know, we've lived this whole time thinking that I wasn't going to make it, but now I am. So, but that's what made me think of it. But my comment was, I love that you tackled issues, or you know, discussed issues for all the couples that are very real, but I feel like they're not always the go-to issues that are discussed in a novel. You know, there are other issues that I think that are maybe a little more common, but these are no less real and no less, you know, deal breaking for couples.
No, it's honest, you know, and one of the themes of this book that I hope people take away is authenticity and just being true to yourself and listening to your gut and honoring that in all respects, whether it's, you know, a medical decision or a career or parenting or whatever, your marriage, but just listening to your gut and honoring it, you know, and if you feel someone else is trying to steer you in a different direction, just sort of check in with yourself and feel what's real and what's not.
And for, you know, you first, you know, got the idea of during, you know, when you're working on your master's project, was it hard writing this book and switching from like the journalist mindset? Because I'm a freelance journalist, so I can like nerd out on that all night with you. But did you have to like consciously say, okay, I'm taking off that hat and I'm putting on the writer hat, where I don't have to fit everything into like 600 words?
No, actually, it was liberating. It was 100% liberating, because I had my first job was as a fact checker, and so I'm very like, you know, stuck in my ways and don't want to veer off course. And so knowing that I had these messages and I had these facts, but I didn't want to write a memoir. My life, fortunately, is not that dramatic and exciting. But I did have these nuggets from my childhood experience that I wanted to impart. And I felt like they were good lessons to put into a book, but I at first I tried writing a memoir, but I was so stuck on not just the facts, but the chronology of it. It's like this happened and then that happened. And then I didn't have any freedom with it. And so once I came up with the idea to take the stuff that I wanted to impart, but also create these characters, the characters lifted the whole thing off of the page. You know, once I created these great characters with their storylines, it all sort of like clicked and it came together, and I had that freedom to just explore and explode with it. And it was a lot of fun. I really I enjoyed working on this. It was not a chore in any way.
Now, there are some mornings when it definitely feels like a chore where I try to write 1,000 words a day, and sometimes I'll highlight and go, oh my God, only 600. Okay, just keep going.
No, you know what happened though is that I would sort of like map it out, and then I would start, you know, a dialogue with the characters, and so I'd have like points A, point B, and point C that I knew I had to hit in a chapter. I'd start at point A, and then I'd start a dialogue, and it would completely like veer off into a different direction. I'd say, wait a minute, the character's not going to say that. That doesn't sound natural. And then I would, you know, play around with it, and it would completely change. And sometimes it's like they became like voices in my head, my imaginary friends, and they sort of directed the book in, you know, slightly circuitous ways. It was interesting. I may be a little crazy, but it was.
Well, we're authors. We're all a little bit crazy when it comes down to it. I mean, I don't know how many authors we've interviewed who have actually said, "Yeah, my characters talk to me."
Yeah.
They have a life of their own.
It's like completely normal. It's like, oh yeah, totally, all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not. I mean, we say that we're weird and we say that we're crazy, but really, in the grand scheme of it, we're our own little breed. It's all good. There's no such thing as weirdos in writing world.
Sorry. Yeah.
For a second, I was like, "Oh no, my new computer freeze."
No, you didn't freeze. I was thinking of something and spaced out. It's been a crazy week here in Chicago. And we had frost on the ground today, hard frost. It crunched when I stepped on it. I am not prepared for winter.
Have fun with that.
Yeah, I know. I'm not happy. So are you, do you have a second novel in the works with these characters, or a completely different idea?
I would love to write a sequel with a couple of the characters, not all of them, but I think there are 2 storylines at least that I feel are not completely done. So I would like to explore that. I mean, I have it marinating in my head. I have it sort of mapped out. So far, so good.
And what is I forget the term. I remember the other term is pantser, where you write kind of like flying by the seat of your pants. The other one is planner?
Pantser or planner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a little bit? I'm a mix. I'm a mixed breed on that one. I sort of plan it out, but like I said before, I can have points A, B, and C that I want to hit, but I can start at one and then it can veer off, and I'll sort of like see where that goes. So it's sort of a mix of both.
I find that that's the best way, in my personal opinion. I mean, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a mix of both, but I find that it's nice to have a guideline, and you don't have to stick to those guidelines. It's not set in stone, but it's nice to have that kind of guidepost. And
yes, exactly. In case you need it, it's there.
Yeah, it's like the Pirates Code. It's more like guidelines.
It's a suggestion.
Yeah, just a suggestion. I mean, really, who needs rules?
Well, if my kids ask, they do.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I know we are just about at our half hour, but thank you so much for joining us, Amy. I know it's super late over there, so we'll let you go. But we had so much fun chatting with you.
Thank you for having me. This is really fun.
Absolutely. And just keep us posted with the second book, because we have to know what happens.
Give me a year or two, but yes,
Okay.
I'll be back.
Sounds good. We'll keep you to it.
All right, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
So we are going to continue our discussion now on Undiscovered Country. And I'm so sad because I have a rip on the cover.
Oh no, and it's such a pretty cover.
I know. I don't know how I did that. But it's ripped. And usually I'd be like, but and then all of a sudden it dawned on me that it's a hardcover book and there's nothing underneath the sleeves. So I need to be careful.
Yes, I mean, I'm surprised that mine is in such good condition because I took it with me and I was taking pictures of it with it at the drive-through tree in Oregon, which, if you guys follow me on Instagram, it is the 8th wonder of the world.
Is it really legit, or is that just like per you?
Well, why does there have to be a difference between per me and it being legit? I don't see the difference here.
Fair point. Fair point.
So basically what happened with the drive-through tree was that we're driving up to Oregon and we see the sign and there's just one sign that says drive-through tree this way. Ryan looks at me and he's like, want to go check out the drive-through tree? And I was like, of course. So we go and we veer off and it's like 2 miles off the freeway. But, you know, hey, it's a drive-through tree. And you pay $10. And like suckers, we paid $10 to do this. We go through this winding, pretty little forest area. Totally looks like Endor. And I'm like, oh, it's so pretty. And then you get to this giant sequoia that in the 1920s, they cut out a hole in it so you could drive through. Thing is, between the 1920s and 2018, cars got bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So you drive through the tree. Our Kia, thankfully, fits through the tree, no problem. But as you drive through, you see all the scrape marks of the cars that have gone before you. And you go through this tree, and you get to the other side, and there's a gift shop. That's it.
Oh, did you buy something from the gift shop?
Of course I did. What kind of a road tripper do you think I am? Of course I bought something from the gift shop.
From the gift shop. Did you buy like a little keychain of the tree with a hole in it?
No, I bought a little tree. I kid you not. I bought a little tree.
I'm gonna need a picture of that tree on our Instagram because I did not.
Picture of it.
Said souvenir.
Yes, I got that. Though admittedly, that will be a gift for somebody. But I got that tree. I did buy something. But I took the. Yeah, but I got it. And, you know, I supported the little tree roadside attraction. But I took some of the most gorgeous photos there. You guys saw some of the photos that I took. The one with the leaves and the fence, that was from that spot. So $10, totally worth it.
For the Instagram post, people.
Because I'm that dedicated to our Instagram. That's why you guys need to be following us, not just for the giveaways, but for the awesome Instagram photos that we do, because we want to curate great content for you guys.
It is kind of crazy how much time is spent. Oh, sorry. I heard Rich talking, and I thought he was talking crap on our Instagram, but he was talking to Call of Duty people.
Oh, okay. That's acceptable.
It's kind of crazy how much time and effort goes into an Instagram post. And then you have to add all the hashtags.
Yes. I mean, Instagram, and it's not just Instagram, it's Bookstagram. It is an art form in and of itself. It's not just your standard social media. No,
Bookstagrammers, like, they take pride, and some of them are so creative. I'm like, dude, I have a coffee cup, a coffee mug, a book, and like my laptop.
I need to take a photography class just so I can be as good as them.
Yeah, I know. Ooh, I have better light all the way back here.
So anyway, chapter 8.
Oh, I'm on chapter 9.
Oh. So, I'm not that far behind. Yay. It's been a crazy week here too.
Yeah, I know. It's nuts. But so you got to the oops moment that they had with Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It is. And, you know, one of the things that really strikes me in this book is how Eleanor really strives to be private. And it's kind of hard given the fact that she's in such a public family, because the Roosevelts really are a public family. I mean, they're, I don't want to say the Kim Kardashians of their day, because, I mean, they had class. Don't hate me if you're a Kim Kardashian fan. I'm just saying. But they were the real celebrities of their day. They really were celebrities. And they had that pedigree going way back. I'm currently reading A Well-Behaved Woman, and the Roosevelts pop up there too. But she was part of this well-known family, and then on top of that, she's married to the president. Can't get out of that marriage, like we covered last week. So,
but not just the president. He was the president that was going to save everyone.
Yes. And it's interesting. They also allude to the fact that not everybody liked him. Now, looking back in history, it's really easy for us to pretend that we all liked him. The whole country rallied behind him. There wasn't any discourse, that we weren't divided. But the reality was he wasn't always liked by everybody. And they had death threats.
Well, he had an assassination attempt before he was even president. I mean, before he was, acting president.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right. So her character's fascinating. And one of the things I really want to talk to Kelly about is, how she developed the character and what were her thoughts going into developing this character.
Yeah. And then, echo. What was I gonna say? Eleanor is a fascinating character, and it's really interesting because this is where I can see like a divide in our personalities and our interests, because I am so hung up on Hick. Like okay, so chapter 8, you're on chapter 8. So
yeah. So Michelle, are you telling me you're the Lorena Hick to my Nora?
I mean, this woman, I mean, she probably couldn't have in that day and age, and being a female reporter, she probably couldn't have taken herself off that beat, because there was no acceptable reason why she couldn't write about her anymore.
Yeah, Good Girls Revolt didn't happen yet.
True. Yeah, that's a few years off.
Yeah, a couple decades later. Yeah.
But that moment. So did you read the assassination attempt part?
Yes.
Okay. So the part where she asks Lewis, like, basically she asks him permission to write about all of that. No reporter sitting in a room with the first lady the night that her husband is almost assassinated would ask permission to cover it. Like, you write whatever you can as fast as you can before they say, oh, this is off the record.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It shows how much respect she had for the family and how much she knew how precarious her situation was within that dynamic. Because I would imagine that she had to walk a fine line, because she's able to get these scoops, but yet at the same time, she can't betray their confidence. So, I mean, I'm sure there was stuff that she was able to write about that they approved of, and she got closer to them than any other reporter did. Just, I mean, think about in the beginning of the book, Eleanor didn't want to be interviewed. She didn't want other reporters around, but yet Lorena got the inside track.
I'm really trying to find, I haven't been able to figure out if AP has like online archives. I checked out their website a little bit, but I haven't found them yet. But I'm really trying to find articles that Hick wrote. Because I would love to read them.
And once she has them, she will post them on our Patreon page. So you guys should join our Patreon. It's patreon.com/winewomenwords. You can directly subscribe to us and help support our show.
Because I found her obituary when she died in the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, because that's where she got her start. She actually covered college or high school football. I forget which one. That's how she started. And then she eventually ended up with the Associated Press before quitting. But so I found her obituary in that newspaper, and then I also found her obituary in the Chicago Tribune. And it's really crazy how, I mean, she was a reporter, a successful reporter, and almost everything I read about her in the newspaper, except for the one in Minneapolis, which is, they knew her there. But the other obituaries, the only thing she was known for was being a close companion to Eleanor Roosevelt. And that's kind of annoying.
It is. And it also, I guess, give me a little bit of hope of the fact that regardless of gender, if you're associated with somebody who's famous, you're going to be known as being associated with somebody who's famous, regardless of what you do. I mean, look at Amal Clooney. She is this noted lawyer, human rights lawyer, a woman that we all should look up to. But so often, and especially more or less so in the beginning than now, but newspapers and their headlines were referring to her as Mrs. Clooney or the wife of George Clooney, completely just negating her accomplishments. So I don't know, it kind of feels like, some things haven't changed, and it is nice to know that regardless of gender, those things don't change. That does kind of give me a little bit of morbid hope.
Well, and then I did kind of go into research mode. So Hick died in 1968, I want to say.
You looked this up last week?
Her ashes, she was cremated, and her ashes weren't even claimed for 20 years. They were not claimed by anyone. And they finally were claimed by someone, I forget who. And she was buried in an unmarked grave. Or no, I'm flipping it around. Sorry. She died and she had like a grave marker. They made a grave marker for her. And it was over the ceremony, the unveiling or whatever of the grave marker was overseen by no one except the gravedigger or person who worked at the cemetery. And her ashes were unclaimed for 20 years. They just sat on top somewhere.
That is so sad. And yeah, that's way to be a downer, Michelle.
I'm sorry. It bummed me out. It made me mad. And it's interesting that once the letters were, she donated the letters with the stipulation that they were not made public for 10 years. So they were made public, and no one wanted to say that they were in love, that they were in a relationship. Everyone wanted to say that they were close friends or close companions. Like, it's just no, they were not friends.
Well, that's the way it used to be. I mean, I remember growing up in like some families, when I was a kid in the mid to early 80s, not to date myself too much here. But I had aunts who have aunts who are gay, and for the longest time it was Aunt Lorraine and her friend. It was always her friend. It wasn't her girlfriend. It wasn't her partner. It wasn't her wife. It was Aunt Lorraine and her friend. And then I had on my mother's side, there was another one, my mother's sister-in-law had a sister who was gay, and it was always her friend. And their mother would never acknowledge the fact that she was gay, and it was never talked about. It was always her friend. And I think a lot of that whole friendship thing was a part of the stigma of homosexuality in our society, where we not only did we not talk about it, we didn't acknowledge it. It was just them and their friend, or their special friend, or their best friend.
Or roommate.
Yes, or roommate. And still, sometimes with the estate planning stuff, sometimes you have the roommates that have been together for roommates for a very long time. And you're like, yeah, you're old school. It's cool.
I see you.
I see you. I don't judge you, but I see you. It's cool. You're cool.
Well, I'm really excited to talk to Kelly about what kind of research, because I'm really curious to know if certain things happened the way that they happened in the novel. Like, if, did they really get busted by Marcus? Did he really figure out what was happening? And
those letters, she includes those letters. Are those the actual letters between Eleanor and Lorena?
I'm kind of sure they are, because what I read in some of the newspaper clips from when the letters were first made public, they would include like little quotes, little quips from them, and some of them I recognized from the letters that I'd already read in the book.
Yeah, so. Like there's like I love one. It's like it says at the next letter after chapter 8. I all my love to you, darling. It is your face I think of as I fall asleep, your hands in mine.
That's not
like, I joke around
to you at night.
I'm comfortable enough in my sexuality and to be able to tease and joke around with Michelle, being like, "Oh yeah, you're my wife. You're my heterosexual life mate." But with this, we don't text that way. I don't say that I dream of you. And if I have had a dream that you're involved in, A, it's really crazy, and B, it involves some Laverne and Shirley type antics.
Laverne and Shirley, not Nora and Hick.
Yeah, no offense, Michelle.
It's all right.
Yeah, you're not my type.
But friends, our point is friends don't write that to each other. I text Diana at 4 a.m. when I wake up and say, "Hey, sorry I missed your text at 8:30. I was definitely already asleep."
Or I get some going, "Hey, did you see that email? Are you going to address that, or am I going to address that?" I get those in the morning too, and I'm like just waking up about ready to brush my teeth. And I'm sorry for the jingling back here. My dog was like super chill, and then I come in here to do the podcast, and then she turns into a little maniac. And her collar is loud because we kind of have to have a bell on her because she's so little. Otherwise, we'll step on her. And that's never good.
That snort that I just did that echoed back to me sounded insanely loud, and you need to edit that before you put that up, because that's not
maybe cool. Maybe How much do you like me?
Well, I won't think of you as I fall asleep at night, but
well, then I'm definitely leaving it in.
But I like you as a friend.
Okay, maybe I'll consider now.
So this is not related to the story, but it is driving me crazy. You guys remember a couple of months ago-ish, maybe? Mm-hmm. I made the awesome discovery that adults can catch hand, foot, and mouth disease from kids.
That was about a month ago. Yeah, it was a month ago. Not a couple months ago.
Someone just fell out of bed. That was a loud bang.
We'll hear about it soon.
One of the awesome side effects of getting that from your kid is your fingernails could actually fall off.
Oh no.
And it's happening. Do you see that?
Oh, I don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that.
I mean, it doesn't look gross, but it's like annoying that I can't take it off because that would hurt. But I have to like sit here and let it come off by itself.
Just gonna hug my dog like a teddy bear and pretend you didn't say any of that, because now I'm just shivers. Your child's a terrorist. Toddlers are terrorists.
Hey, little man, come around this side. This side, this side, this side. You're not gonna make it through on that side. Oh, you are. Hey, dude, we were just talking about you.
Oh. Hi, buddy. Okay, well, hello to you too. Well, we are about at our hour anyway. Next week, the show's going to be live on Tuesday.
A week from Tuesday.
A week from Tuesday. I thought it was Tuesday. We're going to be what day are we going to be on? The 30th? Okay. You've got me all confused with the dates, woman, because we're going to need to re-go over the calendar, because I thought we were going to be on Tuesday the 23rd. Because I was talking about next week when we were talking about our calendar earlier.
Oh, no, sorry. I meant the Tuesday after.
Okay, so Tuesday the 30th.
Yes.
Okay, so we're still going to be on regular on the 25th.
No, we're skipping that Thursday and moving that Thursday to Tuesday the 30th.
Okay, yes, because then we also have a guest on the 1st.
Right.
Okay, now I'm actually tracking with our schedule, so we won't have a live episode for you next week.
Right.
However, if you are in the LA area and you do miss me, because I know I miss me if I don't see me, you can go to Scary Stories Around the Pit Fire on October 24th. Our friends at Black Chateau Publicity, they sponsored one of our giveaways for our birthday celebration. And a number of authors that we know are going to be there, including Eddie Louise, who was on the show recently. Yay! So I'm going to be there. I am going to be telling my version of a scary story, which really isn't a scary story. Because, I mean, I'm not a horror fiction author. I'm more of a PG-13 hocus pocus style writer. So I'm going to be a bit more along the lines of hocus pocus in my story writing. So come out, check us out, and it'll be a fun night. I think I might dress up for the occasion too.
And take pictures.
Absolutely. So come and check us out on the 24th.
All right, and keep reading, because when we come back on the 30th, we will have Kelly with us to talk about the book.
Yes, and I think I might have to do an Instagram story about my dad's library.
I think you do.
Because we've been talking a lot about it, and it was in the last clip that I shared on Instagram, so I think I need to share it.
All right, guys, keep reading, and we will see you on like 10 days.
Yeah, we'll see you on Tuesday the 30th.
Bye.
Okay, bye.